Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and thanks to Ms. Crockett for calling us together. We are already 10 weeks into the Trump administration, and still the Republicans are recycling the most tiresome, vacuous, and debunked stories, conspiracy theories about the Biden administration, while demurely declining to conduct.
It seems like Elon Musk has been relatively quiet lately, which is a bit unsettling, especially considering that our shadow president prefers to work behind the scene. It's in these hidden spaces where he uses his dark money to take your tax dollars for things like massive loans to Tesla, huge contracts for SpaceX, and more billions for Starlink, funds they didn't earn and don't deserve because they're not safe. This has been the dynamic of the Elon Musk co-presidency. Although Musk has been quiet recently, Democrats haven't been holding back and criticizing him. A prime example of this is Jamie Raskin, who went after Musk during a congressional hearing, calling out his wrongdoings. We'll dive into that, but before we do, please take a moment to like this video and, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. It really helps and means a lot. Now let's talk about Jamie Raskin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and thanks to Ms. Crockett for calling us together. We are already 10 weeks into the Trump administration, and still the Republicans are recycling the most tiresome, vacuous, and debunked stories, conspiracy theories about the Biden administration, while demurely declining to conduct any oversight at all of the current administration. And I agree with the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan. It is day and night, but I think he's seeing day and night backwards. Donald Trump is turning our country into a gangster state where agencies like the Federal Trade Commission, the FBI, and the Department of Justice act as presidential enforcers, conducting political deals with elected officials like New York City Mayor Adams, corporate shakedowns against ABC, CBS, and other media entities, and law firms like Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wilmer Hale, and Jenner and Block, demanding pledges of loyalty from citizens, and in some cases, demanding cold, hard cash in lawsuits brought directly by the president against private businesses. Meanwhile, they're offering mass pardons, immunity, and protection to violent insurrectionists, convicted drug beaters, cop beaters, drug traffickers, corrupt politicians, as long as they're willing to kiss the ring and do the president's bidding. Let's look at how this administration is treating the honest men and women of the FBI. In his first days in office, Trump targeted thousands of FBI agents simply for doing their jobs after the mob violence of January 6, 2021, and holding the cop beaters and insurrectionist rioters accountable. FBI agents had to sue to stop this purge and block them from publicly releasing their names to the violent militias like Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, whom President Trump had already given pardons to. And those pardons, by the way, this Department of Justice are extending to other crimes these people have committed, including cocaine trafficking and gun charges. This administration isn't opposing corruption. It's opening the door wide open to corruption every single day for his friends. Donald Trump ordered the FBI to stop conducting background investigations of top White House officials. Why? He disbanded the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force, charged with identifying and combating malign foreign influence operations targeting the United States. Why? He suspended enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and reduced enforcement of the Foreign Agents Registration Act just 2 days after it was reported that Director Kash Patel had engaged in lucrative consulting work for Qatar and for a Vladimir Putin-connected foreign arms conglomerate. The current FBI leadership is diverting the FBI's resources away from public safety and national security and towards mega conspiracy fixations and obsessions. According to press reports, hundreds of agents ordinarily assigned to defending the national security of the United States have been pulled into a mind-boggling effort where they were pulling all-nighters and working around the clock to review the Epstein files after Attorney General Bondi botched the first attempt at what she said was going to be a complete release of the Epstein files. So it's important to consider what the FBI is not investigating in the frenzy of all these Back to the Future wild goose chases. They're not investigating Signalgate, the extraordinary decision by a group of America's highest national security officials, including one who was in Moscow at the Kremlin at the time, to compromise the safety of our service members and intelligence officers by using Signal, a non-secure commercial application to reveal specific confidential and classified details about an impending military airstrike, complete with timestamps for when F-18 aircraft would launch and arrive at their targets and when Tomahawk missiles would be fired at buildings controlled by Houthi members. What are DOJ and FBI doing to investigate this stunning, dangerous episode of incompetence or recklessness, at the very least, that undoubtedly violates all kinds of federal, criminal, and civil laws? Nothing. In fact, when asked about the Signal chat, Attorney General Bondi changed the subject to Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Sound familiar? That's what we're doing today. Just a week after the story broke about this tremendous security breach, she said, case closed. No further investigation, no lessons learned, no hearings. That's the end. Can you imagine what they would be doing if that had happened under President Biden? If his top national security team had been talking about a military strike on Signal, there would be 8 special committees and subcommittees investigation, and they'd all be demanding impeachment, the way they're demanding impeachment of judges who blow the whistle on the illegalities of this administration. Well, what else is the FBI not investigating? Elon Musk, his startling ties to the Communist Party of China, the CCP. Musk is bulldozing our federal government while accessing the people's most sensitive databases. And he's traveled to China multiple times in the last several years and met with the highest level Communist Party officials. He's continued to open factories in China where he does half of his business, even as he works as a, quote, special government employee to dismantle and destroy our federal government. Can you imagine if President Biden had done that, what our colleagues would be saying? Well, look, in this new state that we're in, the FBI is not here to enforce the law. It exists to allow the president to shake down businesses and individuals, offering them protection and immunity if they comply and persecution if they don't. The administration installed as the head of the FBI Kash Patel, known for being the man who will do anything for Trump. They also installed as deputy director Dan Bongino, a far-right podcaster and conspiracy theorist who boasted in 2018 that his entire life right now is about owning the libs. His appointment was a particular betrayal of Patel's promise that he would appoint a deputy director who would be an on-board active special agent, as has been the case for 117 years. Already stories of intimidation and pressure in this DOJ and this FBI are trickling out. 7 veteran prosecutors were forced to resign rather than take part in a corrupt bargain to dismiss charges that were brought by a grand jury in New York against the mayor of New York, Eric Adams. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, Daniel Sassoon, who clerked on the Supreme Court for Justice Scalia and was active in the Federalist Society, resigned, saying nothing had changed in the facts of the case, nothing had changed in the law of the case, nothing had changed in the evidence. It was simply this political deal that Donald Trump had cooked up with the mayor of New York, who traveled down to Mar-a-Lago. The longtime criminal chief in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office was forced to resign rather than open the current bogus investigation into Biden-era clean energy projects. So what we see at the Trump FBI and DOJ is part of a broad pattern. They're targeting lawyers who took up causes or clients that Donald Trump doesn't like, and they've issued illegal executive orders intended as threats against them. The president and his friends are threatening federal judges that ruled against them to halt their blatantly illegal executive actions, calling for impeachment of the judges. And there have been threats against their families made online. The president and his friends are threatening journalists and deporting legal immigrants for exercising their First Amendment rights, sending a clear message to anyone thinking of speaking up against the administration. The FBI's leadership are threatening to take the FBI down a very dangerous path today, one that's entirely incompatible with the values of the men and women of the FBI.
Just because we haven't heard his irritating voice or seen his strange dance moves since he took that crushing defeat in Wisconsin doesn't mean he's not up to his usual tricks. Sure, it was just last week that we were hearing from Elon, but in the context of the Trump presidency, those weeks feel like years. Just because he's been quiet doesn't change the fact that he's still a criminal. Every day, Elon Musk is pocketing nearly $10 million of your tax dollars, and I don't think we should just ignore that. That's why I'm glad Jamie Raskin is constantly working to call him out. But there's so much corruption happening within the administration that's flying under the radar. One of the clearest, or I guess technically worst, examples of this was highlighted by Chris Murphy a little while ago, and I think it's crucial to discuss, especially in the context of tariffs. Let's take a closer look.
I don't actually know what it means to give billionaires another $50,000 in tax breaks. I really don't know what that means. I don't know what that life is like. I don't know what it's like to have 7 houses and 4 yachts. I don't know what a billionaire does with an extra $50,000. I can't actually explain that to you. I don't understand that kind of rapacious greed. What I do know is what happens to poor people, the people who live in my neighborhood in the south end of Hartford, when they lose their Medicaid. Linda lives in Sherman, Connecticut, a small town in western Connecticut. Following the economic downturn in 2008, Linda had trouble finding work. And that was tough for her because she's a cancer survivor. She had high healthcare expenses and she needed work. She was underemployed. She worked in plant nurseries and agriculture. Her husband at the same time lost his job as an auto mechanic. They lost their healthcare insurance. But then when the Affordable Care Act passed, Medicaid was expanded. More people were made eligible for Medicaid. And in 2010, she was able to sign up for Medicaid. She said, quote, "I had so much anxiety all the time about how to pay for healthcare. We were going through all of our money, and we just thought this isn't right. People shouldn't have to worry about just being basically healthy." But once she got health care, she was able to restart her life. Linda went back to school because now she had health care. She got a new degree. She found a job teaching agriculture at a local high school. But that program didn't provide health care, so she still needed that Medicaid. Medicaid, she says, just provides such a baseline for society. It allowed me to maintain my health so that I was able to continue working. The Medicaid cuts that they are talking about will destroy Medicaid expansion. In fact, some states will automatically cancel the Medicaid expansion program when these cuts are made, meaning that people like Linda all across the country are going to lose their health care. For what? For a massive tax cut for the wealthy.
It's the Trump meme coin, and you might have forgotten about it. But there are some crucial aspects of this coin that really matter in the context of tariffs right now. The first key point is that Donald Trump has a stake in the platform and the system that allows you to buy the coin. Every time you purchase some Trump meme coin, he gets a cut. So it's not just a $20 million investment into the coin, he's getting a little extra on the side, essentially turning it into a donation to Trump. That's significant. And beyond the fact that any investment in it will likely increase its value and make him more money, this is one of the biggest scams we've ever seen from a sitting president. I'm honestly surprised it hasn't become a bigger scandal. Now, why does this matter right now? It's because of the ability for businesses to donate directly to the president through this coin. Tariffs are a great tool for corruption, particularly the exemptions and carve-outs that Trump can grant to certain business leaders. We've already seen today that CEOs are eagerly praising him, hoping to avoid the tariffs. Musk and other top business figures are going to be spared, while small businesses and regular consumers suffer. Does Trump care about them? Number. He's getting rich off his meme coin and playing golf at Mar-a-Lago. That's his presidency. This is what we need to call out every day. If you want to support that effort, as always, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.